I'm going to share the real reason why a lot of people don't want to be around their boss anymore. And then a TikToker, yes, another one, has gone viral for the post-college reality check. We'll break it down next. Here to help you get better so your paycheck gets bigger. I'm Ken. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Excited that you're with us. All right, let's get into this. What is going on in the workplace today? Nobody wants to be around their boss. You know, everybody's hanging out in the hallway, having a good time. Hey, boss comes walking around and they scatter like vultures on the side of the road. It's like the boss has rolled a bowling ball at the people who are bowling pins, and everybody scatters. This is a real thing. Why nobody wants to be around their boss. So I'm going to give you the answer first and then help you leaders figure out how to not be this kind of boss. All right, so here's what's going on. The reason why nobody wants to be around their boss is the same reason why you don't want to be around acquaintances or coworkers or friends that just don't provide any value. Okay, this is a gut check. All right, and I will be honest. I don't know if you people will be honest with yourselves, but I'll ask you first and then I'll be honest. All right. How many of you have recently been in a situation where a friend, and I'm saying friend in air quotes because this is not a deep, close friend, and this will be obvious, but a friend or an acquaintance, a new connection, has reached out to you and suggested that you get together for coffee or lunch. And you thought about it long enough to go, I don't really want to hang out with them. How many of you have done that? Okay, we have a lady in the audience, in the studio, who is willing to raise her hand. Not in the studio, outside the studio walls. I appreciate your honesty, ma'am. And by the way, she represents all of us. Because if we're really honest with ourselves, we go, there are some people who want to connect with us, and you assess the situation. And I'm not saying this is healthy, so I'm not judging you, ma'am. I'm not judging myself. By the way, this happens to me all the time. Okay? Just does. And I'll sit there and I'll go, let me think through this. I mean, it's instinctive. I mean, it's instant. I mean, it's either, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, some people reach out and say, hey, let's do coffee and get together. I'm like, absolutely. You know, and some people you're like, oh, man. Now, what's going on there? Okay, here's what's going on. Right or wrong, ma'am. Right or wrong. Healthy or unhealthy. We are in that situation going, I don't see the value exchange. Now, that's a fancy way of saying it. It just means it's not worth my time. They aren't fill in the blank. Okay, whatever it is. I'm not going to keep going down this rabbit hole, but this illustration is driving this idea behind why people don't want to be around their boss. And the answer is there's not enough value. It's not worth it. The boss is unhealthy. The boss is tense. The boss is dishonest. The boss is a jerk. The boss is aloof. I don't care what you want to say. And so the value exchange in our personal life, it's the same thing with our leader. If you got a leader who invests in you, who cares about you, who's enjoyable to be around, who's honest with you, wants you to win, you know, fill in the blank there too, all the positives. All of a sudden you want to be around that leader. So that's why the team came to me and said, you teach on this. Why do you think it is? I'm telling you, that's the reason. Now, let's go to leaders, okay? Because here's what I want you to know, even if you're listening and watching the show right now, and you aren't a leader. If you continue to get promoted, and I can't imagine why you're listening or watching the show if you don't want to get promoted, you don't want to move up, you will eventually get promoted. You will promote yourself into a leadership role. And I want you to be prepared for it. And awareness of this major issue, as identified from Gallup, and they are the gold standard when it comes to data in the workplace. And this is fascinating. Okay. One of the big issues that makes a boss not likable and people don't want to be around the boss And by the way, this does matter. If some of you are going, you know what, Ken, as a leader, I don't need to be liked. Bull crap. Because people leave leaders, not companies. And on that note, if you're a leader right now and you're going, well, I've had this many people leave, well, I didn't do anything negative to them. It's not always because of something negative you did to them. It might be because of something positive you didn't do for them. And they go, I'm not getting this, and I can get this somewhere else. In other words, recognition. It's huge. You didn't see their potential. You didn't get them on the right seat of the bus. They're gone. You didn't invest in them, let them know that you cared about them as a person. You were just real transactional. They're gone. So, blind spots. So Gallup did a study, and they studied managers and individual contributors. And each group assessed how they're managing their team or how they are being managed based on a list of responsibilities. And they took those responsibilities, and this is the fun part, and they separated the ranking, like, so rank yourself and then you rank your manager in these 4 categories. Strengths, okay, that means that you were rated high by both managers and employees, or rated high. So the managers rated themselves high, employees rated themselves high. Known weaknesses, that's where you're lowest. Blind spots, where managers rated themselves high, but employees rated them low. And that's where I want to lock in a second. And then finally, unrecognized strengths, where employees said about the manager, they're good at this, but the managers rated themselves low. That's a fascinating category as well. But we're going to stick on blind spots today because this is why there is the disconnect relationally. We could say good chemistry between a leader, a manager, and their team. And the reason that lack of chemistry exists and people don't want to be around their leader in large part is because of the category. And there's a lot of specific areas that you can have a blind spot. In other words, the blind spot is if I interview a bunch of leaders, the leaders would go, I'm good at said thing. And their team anonymously would say, they're not good at said thing. That's a blind spot. I don't see my weakness. That's really challenging. It can affect the leader's individual effectiveness, and of course, it affects their effectiveness in leading a team and creating unity. So, here's what's interesting. Here are the gaps, according to the study. The biggest gaps between manager and employee perceptions are in the delivery of recognition, and we've talked about this in feedback. Nearly 60% of managers feel they're doing a good job recognizing their team's hard work and contributions. But only a third of individuals share the same sentiment. So what's going on? Managers think that they're recognizing people, and maybe they are, but it's not memorable, or it's not valuable enough to where when the employees are actually polled, they go, yeah, I mean, they're not recognizing us very often. In other words, it's not sticking. Because if managers to the tune of 60% said they're recognizing people for their hard work and their accomplishments, and 30% are saying of the employees are going, yeah, they are. So we got a big gap here. 70% are going, they're not recognizing this at all. And you get 60% of managers going, yeah, I'm doing it. What's going on? It's not memorable. It's not valuable. It's not sticking. But the largest difference between manager perceptions and employee perception is in how often they think feedback is provided. 20% of employees say they receive feedback weekly, compared with about half of managers reporting they deliver it weekly. So this is fascinating. What's happening? Blind spots. Blind spots. So what can you as a leader do? You have got to first create an environment of trust where people feel like they can trust you to handle feedback on you. The very people, leaders, that you should be driving, and I mean driving, to get feedback on are the people you lead. Secondarily, it should be the people above you. You should be getting feedback from above and around. But more important is the very team that you lead, because they're the ones that see you in, day out, good, bad, ugly. So you've got to get to a point. And the way you can do that practically is create some anonymous surveys and handle it like an adult. Don't pull them all in together and go, well, you said this, this, and this, and you get on this Donald Trump style defense tactic. And yeah, I said that. That guy is always making excuses and defending everything and everything all the time. I want leaders who go, you know what? Thank you for this. I need to get to the bottom of why I am blind in this area. That is game-changing leadership. And so that's how you fix it. It's that simple. You fix your blind spots, people begin to trust the person that you are and who you want to become. And man, they'll tell you, and you'll be able to do something with it. Hey folks, I want to tell you about Aiden. He started at Bethel Tech 2 weeks after graduating high school, and less than a year later, he's 19 and working as a full stack software developer. He loved the idea of being able to work at his own pace, but what he really thought was cool was Bethel Tech's faith-based learning environment and being with classmates who had a similar worldview. Now, if this is you, or if you have a son or a daughter that's looking for the next step out of high school, and they may be tech-minded, at least interested, you need to talk to Bethel Tech. Listen to this. Fortune Magazine named them as a top 10 best UX UI bootcamp for 2024. And right now, they're offering you 10% off because you listen and watch The Ken Coleman Show. They also allow you to pay cash, and I know you'll like that. Go to BethelTech.net/Ken Coleman for details. Terms and conditions apply. I'm not making enough money. I need more money so I can get more stuff. This is the sentiment that is rampant on social media among our younger generation. And before you think, oh, Ken's about ready to go all boomer here and rant and rave, and I think there's a lot of blame and enough blame to go around. So I'm told we've got a video here, and this is I've got an article here that supports this video, but apparently a young lady has gone on to TikTok and Twitter and posted a pretty heartfelt story. Shall we play it?
Does anyone else just work their ass off for like the last 3 or 4 years for like a college degree, and now you have a job that you hate and you still can't afford life and you're still fucking miserable and you can't pay any of your bills and you can't live in the house that you imagine, and you just feel lied to? Because you thought that if you just went to college and got a degree, you'd be able to afford a house and like things that make you happy, but yet you're still barely can afford groceries or clothes or literally anything that makes you happy at all. And you had to spend the whole entire weekend in your bed because you literally don't have any money to go do anything other, like if you buy food, you just can't have an entertainment budget. So I'm just wondering if anyone else is dealing with something like this or if it's just me, because this shit ain't it.
Yeah. Well, this is not the first video like this to go out there. So a couple things that I see right out of the gate. I don't think this is a delusional young lady. I don't see anything in this video that tells me she's crazy. Now, she might be. Okay. I mean, let me just say, she might be. But I don't see that. And I've seen enough of these videos now to know that this is real emotion. Is she overreacting to some things? Probably. But in the moment, you could see as she started the video, from the time she started it to the time she finished it, the emotion got real heavy. Real tears. She's at the end of her rope. And who among us, when we're not in a good emotional place, don't say and do things that are irrational? Let me start with that, to have a little bit of grace here. All right. Now, I'm sure the comments, by the way, I don't get in the comments on my own stuff. I'm sure as heck not going to get in the comments on this thing. I've got an article here that talks about some of the comments. She got a lot of crap. She got a lot of support. It's probably all across the board. But let's break down what's really going on, because I would rather address what is underneath this young lady's emotion than just make fun of her. And I think that's the tendency is just to go, oh my gosh, buck up, buttercup. Okay. Let me address a few things that I think, and I don't know this young lady, and I'd love to interview her, by the way. I'd love to do a sit down with somebody like this and really get their backstory, because as I sit here today, I don't know any of her backstory. I could fill in some gaps. Okay. So let me tell you what I think is behind why she did this, why she feels this way. And by the way, young lady, you're not alone. There are a lot of young people in her situation, been out of college 3 to 4 years. That's what she said. And she's in a job. This is issue number one. She hates her job. Her words, not mine. Issue number one that is driving her emotion in the car is she hates her job. Okay? We'll come back to this. Issue number two. She is barely making it month to month, and she doesn't even go into detail. She may be using credit cards to try to make up the gap. So she's struggling financially to keep her nose above water. She talked about being in her bed all weekend because she couldn't afford to do anything. And then the third issue is she has some unmet expectations, and those expectations are probably very unrealistic. She talks about the house. 3 years out of college, I wasn't even thinking about buying a house. I just wasn't. So let me go through these things individually. Number one, hates the job. Okay. Number one, she went and got a degree. I don't know what her degree is in. I'd love to interview her, know her degree. Does she have a job in the field that she got the degree in? Over 50% of recent college grads aren't working in the field that they went and studied. That could be an issue. In other words, colleges and universities are increasingly pumping kids into the system with a degree that they can't even use. The data is all over the place about companies that are saying now we don't need someone with a degree to do this kind of work. And so God bless this young lady. Who knows how much student loan debt she has. And she was told, and she's right, by the way, this is not her being in any way unrealistic. She was sold the lie that if she went and got a degree, she'd get a really great job. Now we find out she posted another post, and this article here says that she is actually making $60,000 in her job, which is above the median wage in the United States, which, by the way, is $47,000. So she's not at poverty level at $60,000. However, I don't know what her student loan payments are. I don't know if she has a car payment. Probably does. So between car payment, student loan payment, when she's netting out here, and she's probably got rent, maybe she doesn't have a roommate. Maybe she's renting something that's really, really costly. And all told, she looks at her bills every month and she goes, this is what everybody else does. Everybody else has a car payment. Everybody else has student loan. Everybody else, my age, goes and rents the most exclusive apartment in the hottest, coolest area of my city. And it's really freaking expensive. Now, just a simple financial coach with her would go, you could cut here, 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 and here. And on $60,000, she should not be laying in her bed all weekend struggling because she can't go do something fun. But again, society sells, go get the debt, go get the car payment, go do the things. You got a college degree. You've got upward mobility that is just a function of showing up. But now this young lady is in her car, probably during a break or a lunch break or at the end of the day, and she's melting down because everything she was told that would happen is not happening. And she has some unrealistic expectations to buy a house. And she probably wants a nicer house than what she would probably need to start with. So, where are the parents? If my kid goes on TikTok and makes that video, I'm taking a huge chunk of responsibility on that to go, how in the world did you come up with this notion? I didn't do a good job of explaining to you how realistic life is and what your progression could look like. I didn't do a good job. And so now here you sit 3 or 4 years into being an adult and you're saying in tears, this ain't it. And by the way, I agree with her. This isn't it. She would be far happier if she didn't go get a degree that she couldn't afford and couldn't use. She would be far happier if she wasn't struggling with a car payment on a car that is devalued every day she turns it on and drives it out. She would be far happier if she had been guided and if she were doing work that she actually really enjoyed and saw a path to prosperity through putting her nose down, doing a really good job, busting her butt, knowing that when I start my first 2 or 3 years, I'm on the lowest rungs of the ladder. But if I keep showing up, I keep doing a good job, then I'm going to get a chance to get promoted. And when I get promoted, because I have gotten better, my paycheck will get bigger. And if I save more and spend less, I have a chance of being a multi-millionaire. But this is a young lady that is sitting in her car at her breaking point because she's done what everybody else does and because she believed what everybody told her would be true. And does she have some personal responsibility on this? Yes, she does. But if she's largely operating on a false sense, a false paradigm, a false narrative, which she is, then it's not surprising at all, and it's not completely her fault she is where she is. So if you're like her and you're buying this narrative that I can no longer, 3 or 4 years out of college, afford to live the life I want, well, here's the reality. The life you want is further down the road than 3 to 4 years, and somebody should have told you that. If I do what I have to do now, I can do what I want to do later, and you're stuck in the now, but you also put too much pressure on yourself. You have unrealistic expectations, which mean they can only be unmet. And the second thing that's going on is you've made poor financial decisions thinking that your degree was going to bail you out with a magical pot of money. And that doesn't happen. Folks, we as parents, we as adults got to come around these young people and encourage them and equip them with their path forward so that they're not in their car freaking out. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. About ready to do the thing that I love to do most. That's coaching people up. Andrew's going to step into the coaching circle. He is in Denver, Colorado. Andrew, you're on the Ken Coleman Show. How can I help today?
Hey, Ken. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. What's going on?
Hey, a little background. So I'm 27. My wife is 26, and we have a 6-month-old son. My wife is a full-time mom. I started with the company while in college as an intern, and I worked for them for the past 7 years. I was well-respected, climbing the ranks rather quickly, putting in my work. And last year, an old friend started recruiting me to come help him with his small business. The promise of growth, financial success. Ultimately, over the last year, I made the wise idea that when our son was born, I went in and quit my corporate job and went and joined him. Mm-hmm. And fast forward now, 6 months later, it's not working out how we talked about it and how I thought. It's not necessarily what I want to do, and the growth is nowhere near what we discussed, and it's also coming out to be, probably a 30 to 40% pay cut.
Oof.
That I did not anticipate. So my question is a couple of things. One, I didn't leave a bad thing. I had a great path. I had a great company, local. I was in the office doing my thing. And so what are your thoughts on going back to a company you've left? I've hinted to my old boss that things aren't working out. And then second is, am I jumping ship too early? A lot of people say, it's too early to know. My current boss is trying to encourage me to, stick it out and it'll eventually pay off, just stick it out. Or do I use this as a chance to completely reinvent myself? And I'm young, I can kind of do what I want. And so I want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, really good question. So we have option A, stay. Option A, go back, assuming they'll take you back. Would they take you back?
I think they would.
All right, so option A is go back to the previous company and get stable, because that's what that move is. Let's be very clear, because I can get right to that point. Going back to the previous company is a stable move. It's just I'm getting there for stability, and I think that I could be okay with the path that place provides me. Because if it was that great and the path at the previous place was so attractive, you would have never left. That's what my gut says.
Well, so it's a little twofold. When I told my boss I quit it, I wasn't leaving a bad thing. It was more of the shiny thing that came by, this big promise of.
I know,
great
but my
success
point
and,
is, if the previous company were so shiny, you wouldn't have left. You'd have just told your buddy, "Yeah, that's really shiny, but I like my shiny thing over here." Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so I think that's important in our decision making. Yes.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of okay. Let me drive this point home. Some people won't like this, but I don't care. This is like breaking up with the girl that you know is good wife material. I mean, you're dating her and you're going, she could be the one. This is a woman that most people on paper would say, this would be a good wife. And you're dating her and you're happy and it's good and you go, she's wife material. If I commit to her, because that's what love is commitment, then this is a good life. And then here comes the tall whatever. I'm not going to make it up for you, Andrew. It's another woman that's a lot prettier and a little bit more exciting life, maybe a lot more exciting. And you go, wow, she batted her eyes at me. That could be an amazing life. And you take it, you break up with the other girl and you start dating the other one. You go, wow, this is not as exciting as I thought. That's where you are.
100%.
So my point is, you've got to understand that what you left was good, but it wasn't great, right? And you chased great.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Now, so I've already taken care of option A. We've discussed that enough. Option B is sticking it out. My concern is it feels like you listed at least 3 promises or 3 potentials. The work itself, the pay, and I think there was something else you listed that all 3
the growth.
The growth. Yeah. I feel like so there were multiple things there that he said would be the case and none of them are. And that is a massive red flag to me. Not a yellow flag. That's a waving red flag. Because I guess I'm asking you, how much of this is him talking a little too big a game? I'm not suggesting that he was lying to you, but was he exaggerating to try to get you over there?
That's what I feel. I feel like it was an exaggeration to try and draw big talent over with my experience.
All right. So what evidence?
It's not at all. I mean, it's not even close to what we discussed.
Okay. Massive problem. So is there any evidence at all that it's going to become the thing he told you it was going to be? Do you see any potential?
There is growth planned, but it's extremely delayed to what we thought. And it
Why?
would be.
Why is it delayed?
I joined a restaurant group, and so we've got locations planned, but they're so far delayed to what we thought. I mean, there were some that should have been open 6 months ago.
I know, but again, I'm asking you, why are they delayed? Because the best laid plans mean jack squat right now. I can plan to dunk a basketball a year from now on a 10-foot goal.
Sure.
I promise you, there is 0 shot of me accomplishing that plan. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm 5'8", I'm almost 50, and I can't jump. Pick a reason. I'm not going to dunk a basketball no matter how grand my plan is a year from now. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Dude, option B is not an option if I'm your coach and you called me.
Sure.
So option C is the one that's interesting to me. Option C is, do I reinvent myself and start on a path? And I think because you even brought that option up, I think that's probably the right option. But I'm going to combine it with A and C. If I'm you, if I can't step into option C from option B, where I am now, if I can't step into that without interruption of income, without going backwards even further, then I'm going to take option A, get stable. Now, keep in mind, you left them once, so in the back of their mind, he might leave us again. And I'm essentially telling you, you are going to leave them again. But that's the right move. If you can get growth there for 2 or 3 years and you stay with them a little longer and you see upward mobility, and you told me there was upward mobility in option A. So if I can do that, and while I plot out and begin the process of stepping into whatever C looks like, do you even know what reinventing yourself looks like? What is that?
I don't. And
well, that's a problem.
And right. That's the issue is I look at this and, having a young kid at home, the option A has been the most appealing, get some stability.
Go A.
But then also
Go A. And here's what I want you to do. Do you have my Get Clear assessment?
I do not.
All right, I'm going to give it to you. The Get Clear assessment in the book, Find the Work You're Wired to Do, is the homework assignment. And that will help you plot out option C, what the future could look like and what you really want it to be. Because I don't think option A is what you really want to be doing 20 years from now. I could be wrong.
No, but it sounds really good right now.
I know it does because you screwed up.
Yep, exactly.
And I'm not getting on you about it. I'm just going, we all make these kind of moves. We make emotional moves. And so I want you to take the Get Clear assessment and read the book, Find the Work You're Wired to Do. Okay? Because I coach you. Of course, go.
What is your recommendation on approaching that subject back, going back to coming, hey, I left 6 months ago. I was on a great path and I left for the other girl, and now going back to your old girlfriend. What is some advice on how I should play that out?
I actually like the girlfriend metaphor because I think it's perfect. I think I'm going back to that girl and I'm going, first of all, I messed up. I got distracted by a shiny object. And it was a good friend, and the good friend leveraged his relationship with me. I would not do that to you for anybody else in the world, but unfortunately, I stand here today going, I left you. And I know that has the effect that it has had on you. I'm telling you, I made the wrong decision because I had a really close friend who sold me a vision that sounded amazing. And because he was a close friend, I believed him, and said vision didn't come true. And so I'm standing here today going, it was not what he told me. And I got to learn from that, and I will learn from that. But I had a future here that I liked. And if you need me, if you want me, I want to come back. That's exactly how I would say it. I wouldn't make excuses. I would call it out. You made a poor judgment call because of a strong relationship. Well, of course you're going to believe your good buddy. And he's dangling this unbelievably shiny object in front of you, and you went for it. And now you realize as a mature adult that you made the wrong decision and you want to fix it. That's what I would say. I would own it.
Yeah, I like that. I think you're right.
And then if he says, well, how do I know you're not going to do this to me again? You go, because I don't have I like the upward mobility that I had, and I'm going to plug into that. And I believe if I plug back in and I do a great job, that there's going to be value for both of us. And that's what I'm asking for, the shot to do that again. Because you don't have anything else to go to. So I think we want to take the bird in the hand. They say it's worth two in the bush. I don't even know what that means, but it's totally applicable here. And I appreciate the call. You got this. This is just humble pie, total transparency and honesty with a huge dose of humility.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.